For once, I'm happy they skipped the opening because every second of this episode was filled with something remarkable. We got some incredible voice acting, a lot of character development, the return of some of my favorite Season 1 OSTs, a bit of humor, surprisingly good animation, good pacing, shaded ears, T-poses, double head pats, and even Best Girl. Not to mention Subaru also gained a new ability and a valuable ally. But starting chronologically, the opening scene was a bit shocking. Even as a novel reader, I was kinda shook at how brutal this was. Garfield bashes the wall with his face, trying to forget his trauma, and the scar left on his forehead has since been a permanent reminder of his failure. They did a great job at making this look like a horror scene, especially with the lack of color in everything except the blood. I thought it made a lot of sense for Emilia to be the first one to call Garfield out. Because of all the characters, she's probably the one who can best understand him, as both Emilia and Garfield have struggled with overcoming their past. Subaru was also able to understand Garfield because of what he learned from his conversation with Ryuzu Arma in episode 39. The fight between Garfield and Subaru was a bit lengthier in the novels, but I still think this episode had excellent pacing, and it was also very refreshing to see Subaru being confident again. You guys saw that, right? He straight up just took a punch to the face without even flinching, and then spit his tooth out like it didn't mean shit to him. That scene was fucking hardcore, man, especially if you consider how powerful Garfield's punches can really be. Something we'll be able to understand better in the future is how important Garfield's development truly was. This episode relieved Garfield of his status as an antagonist, turning him into an ally instead. And with the raw strength of Garfield at his disposal, Subaru's odds of defeating his other opponents are now significantly increased. Remember though, just because Garfield was an antagonist doesn't mean he was a villain. In other words, Garfield did nothing wrong. Even when he murdered all those innocent people, remember that he was in his beast form, and in his beast form, he's no longer Garfield. All of his actions are done without thinking because after transforming, his human logic and morality are replaced with the primal instincts of an enraged predator. And that's why he always transforms before a fight. It's not because he needs the extra strength. The reason he transforms is because he doesn't want to kill anyone. Garfield can't handle that kind of guilt. So if he feels like he has no other option, then it's easier on him to just turn his brain off beforehand. His transformation is a means of escape. So by transforming during his argument with Subaru, Garfield essentially admitted he was wrong. He subconsciously realized that he didn't even believe his own argument, so his only option was to escape reality via transformation. Subaru uses Shamok, in fact probably his final Shamok of the anime. After abusing his broken gate for the last time, it finally collapsed and the connection was severed. His gate was dead, but somehow Subaru still felt a strange power inside his body. In the novel, it's described as a power that doesn't belong to him. Obviously, what he felt was the sloth witch factor. As we know, he absorbed it after killing Betelgeuse, and the Donut Tea helped it settle inside his body. After that, we just had to wait for Subaru to realize it was there. Upon activation, the witch factor granted him the Authority of Sloth just as it did for those that came before him. However, Subaru's version of the authority is a lot weaker than the other versions we've seen, and using it causes him a lot of pain. This is likely because Subaru isn't compatible with the Sin of Sloth, but regardless, I think his new authority is definitely going to come in handy. Because of Sekhmet's high compatibility with the Sin, her Authority of Sloth is extremely powerful and easy to use. But Subaru, who isn't compatible, will have to sustain injuries every time he uses it. Kinda like the Warlock hero power. But Subaru isn't the only one who is incompatible with Sloth. Don't forget that Betelgeuse was possibly the most energetic character in the entire series, making him the complete opposite of Sloth. This means that whenever he used the Unseen Hand, he probably felt the same amount of pain that Subaru does, if not more. This would explain why we often saw Betelgeuse biting his fingers and self-harming shortly before using his authority. The self-harm would redirect pain to a different location on his body, making it easier to ignore the pain caused by using his authority. To be clear though, that isn't confirmed, it's just a theory I came up with to make sense of everything. Something I am certain of is that both Subaru and Betelgeuse were absolutely not compatible with the Sloth factor, which raises the question, why did Betelgeuse have it? Anyway, I was beyond hyped when I first read this moment in the novels. We've all been waiting a very long time for Subaru to get a power upgrade, and this episode, it finally happened. Invisible Providence is what he calls it, but it is in fact the same authority that was used by Sekhmet, Betelgeuse, and Satella. So now that Subaru can officially use the Unseen Hand, he's probably going to be training his new authority every day with some lotion and a picture of Emilia. But does this mean Subaru is now the Sin Archbishop of Sloth? I know some of you are going to be wondering that, so the answer is no, but also yes, but mostly no. Because of his witch factor, Subaru is currently the only person in ReZero with the qualifications to become the Sin Archbishop of Sloth, but to do so, he would have to join the witch cult. Archbishop is actually just a title given to a witch cultist who possesses a witch factor. The important part is the witch factor and not so much the title itself. So yes, Natsuki Subaru is kind of an archbishop. He has all the powers of an archbishop, he just isn't called an archbishop. Though if he did happen to join the witch cult, he would be given the title Archbishop of Sloth, and if Return by Death is what I think it is, he would also be given the title Archbishop of Envy. Garfiel is defeated after Best Girl uses her finishing move, which was also used against Betelgeuse in Season 1. He definitely got his ass kicked, but Garfield did wake up in the best way possible though. If anyone deserves a lap pillow from Rom, it's definitely Garfield. The moment I knew I shipped it was when Roswaal stuck his hand through both of them and Garfield immediately tried to heal Rom's injury without even thinking about himself. You can tell that he really does care about Rom and his romantic feelings are much deeper than just a crush. But unfortunately, I think Garfield might be too young for her. We've known for a while now that something in Garfield's backstory was traumatic enough that he wasn't able to pass the trials. Well, after Subaru fisted him and taught him a lesson, Garfield finally decided to attempt the trial again. Let's take a look at Garfield's traumatic past. Sorry, I played the wrong clip. Here is Garfield's traumatic past. Because of his mother, Garfield was plagued by grief and abandonment for most of his life. But after the development he went through this episode, he was finally able to get through the trial, to which he emerged a completely different character. He smiles and blushes for the first time, and even starts calling Subaru boss. In the web novel, it was Captain, which I thought sounded better, but at least it isn't General like it was in the light novel. The point is, Garfield is now someone who looks up to Subaru, and that's an amazing development that didn't seem possible just a few episodes ago. And finally, the mystery is solved. The reason Subaru broke his promise with Emilia was to sneak into the tomb and draw her a bunch of pictures, or love letters, to motivate her while she's taking the trial. The episode leaves us with another big cliffhanger. Best Girl appears in Emilia's trial and just starts roasting her entire existence, possibly ending her whole career. She calls her a loose woman, a shameless fool, a selfish hedonist, and finally, a witch's daughter. Now, this could be a major revelation about Emilia's identity, or it could just be a racist insult about her appearance. It would be kind of odd for Donna to use witch's daughter as an insult considering she's a witch herself, but it doesn't seem like she's very fond of Emilia, so she could just be trying to piss her off. Regardless, it didn't work. Emilia now has the same confidence we've been seeing in Subaru recently, and she even copies his pose to prove it. And with that, I think Emilia now has everything she needs to pass this trial. This might have been the best episode since the rabbit scene. It had a few cuts, as every episode has to, but I think this was a near perfect adaptation. I know I always give every episode a 10 out of 10, but this episode really does deserve it. I'm seeing a lot of improvements over the first core, and I hope they continue adapting the second core with exactly the same quality this episode had. Before I go, I want to plug my Twitter again. If you haven't heard, Kadokawa is handing out copyright strikes to channels that cover ReZero, so in the event that my channel gets taken down, Twitter is the only other social media I have. So make sure you follow me on there, and if you want to support me during these tough times, giving the video a like would be much appreciated. Thank you everyone for watching. I gotta go read the web novel chapter, so I'm out for now. Keep talking about ReZero. Peace out.